and a little bit more. Reince Priebus, Chairman of the Republican National Committee. Mr. Chairman, good morning to you.
Good morning, Chuck. Now, before we get into all this,
you're trying to soften me up. Yeah, nice try. I know this trick.
This is for your background and your set at Meet the Press.
Oh, you're hoping that we get a
we have a big year.
Yeah,
both in the Senate and for the Green Bay Packers.
Better
and
have.
the Brewers are
Thursday night. Opening night of football.
Yes.
This time, a referee isn't going to steal the game.
That's right. It's a tough way to start, too.
Let's start, though, with the issue of this midterm report. This is done at crossroads. Republican, obviously, supporting Super PAC. In some cases, it's not news. Republican Party has problems with women voters, but it does seem more pronounced. We've looked at it, our own pollsters. We've looked at it from 4 years ago. The Republican Party is in worse shape with women now than it was in 2010. Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. I mean, there's one poll, and we've done a number of polls, too. I think one of the things that we see consistently is that tone matters. But I think the point of that poll wasn't reported, obviously, by Politico. And the point of the poll actually is that if you looked at it, women were rejecting the Democratic Party by 40%. They were rejecting the Party by 50%. I don't think either party can do a victory lap here. But what the point of the poll was, I believe, was that to the members of the House and the Senate is that if you present your plans and you present the solutions to problems that relate to the economy, which is the #1 issue, and you push back on what the Democrats are selling out there in the field, you can actually win women over. I mean, that was the entire point of the poll.
You know, it's interesting.
And we're going to have a good year. In spite of all this chatter, we're going to have a great year.
It's interesting, though, when you talk about that, because I've heard the same argument about Hispanic voters.
But I think it's true. I mean, you have to fight for the votes.
There's no doubt. But the problem you seem to have is when it comes to women voters, do the arguments about contraception end up basically putting the party on mute with those same women voters who may like your economic proposals, but say, you know what, there's just too many crazy white guys who have crazy theories about my reproductive system. And
no,
I'm not listening.
I don't think that's the case at all.
Same thing. Hispanics who maybe on some social issues would be with you, but the immigration talk says, you know what, I can't trust because they've got a whole bunch of crazy guys that talk crazy on immigration.
I mean, two different
issues. Isn't that an issue?
No, I don't believe it is.
Same problem.
Well, I think it's a different kind of problem, but let me just explain. On the first piece, in regard to women voters, the polling that we find and the polling that you're citing right there, I didn't see all the crosstabs or anything. No one did. But what the general gist of it is that the economy is the #1 issue, and in fact, women actually aren't really moved on these issues as much as I think the pundits and everyone believes that they are moved, and that in fact if Republicans talk about things like the economy, the debt, and make the case for jobs and schools and education and push back, I think
Democrats
Republicans
are winning by some 30 and 40 points on economic issues.
As far as the Hispanic issue is concerned, my position has been the entire time, and you and I have talked about it, is you have 37% of Hispanics that self-identify as conservatives, except you don't have Republicans in Hispanic communities making the case to Hispanic voters. So you can get the policy right all day long. Okay, you adopt a particular immigration reform package, so you adopt this package in Washington, D.C. But if I don't have a conduit in the Hispanic community, at the church festival, at the community event, saying, here's what the Republican Party stands for, you're not going to move those numbers. So, I mean, I understand people want to get caught up in policy and legislation, but the fundamental problem that we're trying to address is actually having people in the community to make the case to Hispanics and to women, and that is what the gist of the poll is. The poll's gist wasn't, oh, the Republicans are stuck in the past. The gist of the poll was 50% of the women are saying they have a negative view of the Republican Party, and 40% of the women are saying they have a negative view of the Democrat Party.
Well, yeah, welcome to this election cycle where nobody's happy with either side.
And yet we're still on pace to win a majority in the United States Senate.
I want to ask you about having your candidates.
Sorry.
No. Is it healthy for the RNC having basically more Republican candidates getting more help from an outside group like Americans for Prosperity rather than they are? You're putting in a lot of money, $100 million. They're putting in more.
Well, I'm not sure if that's true.
But is that helpful to the party building
efforts? Well, first of all, I reject the premise, because there was not an entity in America last year in 2013 that raised and spent more money than the RNC as far as the Republic, whether outside group, inside group, any group.
But our outside groups, aren't they bad for the national parties?
No, I don't think they're bad at all. I think they supplement. I think they can be very helpful, and they can supplement very nicely what's done on the ground.
Should they be? Shouldn't that power belong to the two parties?
No, well, listen, as long as the national parties on both sides are restricted by how much money that we can raise from individuals, you're never going to have a situation where outside groups can't be helpful. I don't believe outside money is as effective as hard money. I think hard money, meaning for the viewers, money that's regulated by the FEC, is money that any candidate and any person can use. It's like O-type blood. Everybody wants it, everybody can use it, but there's a limited supply. That money, party money, both sides, candidate money, is gold. The outside money can be valuable, but it has a very much more limited use.
Do you wish your candidates weren't all showing up in one place, like with the Koch brothers at one of these events? Do you think that sort of feeds the Democrats an issue about saying they're being bought and paid for?
They have the same issues. I mean, Tom Steyer and their big money and their opposition to things like Keystone Pipeline and getting the debt under control and doing basically nothing and stopping 300 bills in the Senate. They've got the same issue as far as outside groups is concerned. But I think where it's at is the Supreme Court has said very clearly that it's legal. I think it's here to stay. The only thing I would advocate is that the committees on both sides, DNC and RNC, should be at the same level playing field as these outside groups.
Well, and I think that is what's creating a real problem here, both for transparency, so many things. Reince Priebus, Chairman of the RNC.
Thank you.
Thank you. One thing we all agree, America should agree on.
Yes, it is America's team.
That's right, actually owned by the citizens of Green Bay. Up ahead, a soup surprise.